Hey everybody, this lesson is going to be a little bit exciting because when we're talking about elision, we're not talking just about the Greek language as something that's written, but actually as it was spoken. And we're going to see the kind of effects of it being spoken on the writing, just as we do in English when we say, I do not. Well, rarely do we actually say that. We tend to say, I don't, which at some point, this space was removed, this O was removed, and they put this not parenthesis, apostrophe there, and we had a new word and a new way of expressing these things. And then if you ever see speech actually kind of documented and written out, sometimes you'll see the final vowels of words being dropped. This is because consonants actually do stuff, to say it eloquently. And they separate words. This is why we've had that new movable throughout. Sometimes it's nice to have this N sound, this nasal infix, before a vowel. Otherwise, we're going to get in a situation where we have an EA, and we might lose it. We might lose this E. This new is there as a kind of buttress to prevent elision. But that new movable doesn't happen everywhere. Sometimes we actually do have elision, and elision is not a bad thing. It's just what it is. So we're going to see in this lesson 3 types of elision. But in all these cases, we're losing the final vowel of a word before another word beginning with a vowel. So that's wordy. What does that mean? Well, if we have a word that ends in omicron, then we have another word that begins with a diphthong or another vowel, we're going to lose this omicron. That's what elision is in all these types. Why I say that there are 3 types is that we're going to be looking at the different ways that accent is accommodated. Because what if the accent was on that O, now it's gone, and you had maybe this preposition? Well, what do you do with that? Does this need an accent? Has it now all of a sudden gone proclitic? We're going to get to there. So this is the 3 types of elision that we're going to be learning. Let's start with number 1 and pick up that same example. So we have apo, and we've had a lot of ways to do apo. We've had like apo tes comes, from the village, but now we've learned a number of verbs or words, that begin with a vowel, such as apo plus autu. So out of it, a neuter, or maybe out of him, a masculine thing. So this omicron has to go. Just think about it. If we left it there, it would be apo autu. Yeah, that's a little bit awkward of a transition. It's just easier, especially if you're talking quickly, just to drop it. So didn't need to drop that pi. I'll rewrite it there. And then we're going to mark, as I said, that elision, that absence of the omicron there, with this apostrophe. And in this case, with prepositions, where the second syllable is accented, which is basically all prepositions that are disyllabic. No accent, maybe I'll say recovery. There's no way that it's re-brought in. Now there's an exception to this rule that Shelmerdine notes, and that is peri. But that's just an exception that we'll get to when we get there. It's not that it necessarily becomes pair. Different things are going on. We don't need to worry about it right now. So for number 1, apau 2, we've lost an omicron, but we've regained, we've kind of recovered no accent. Well, number 2, as we move on, is dealing with words that are a little bit stronger than a preposition. So let's take the adjective kakos and make it neuter plural, kaka. And again, these are examples from Shelmerdine on page 48. Kaka erga, bad deeds, or bad actions. So again, we're running into a problem, a vowel before another vowel. This is going to trigger elision. So we drop that final vowel of the first word, mark its absence with an apostrophe. And in this case, when it's not a preposition, the accent's going to go back onto the preceding syllable. it moves back to position 2. Although it's functionally become position 1 because it's only position 2 if we still consider this place an accent. So now it's from what used to be an accentable alpha there, we move back 1 to the penult, to position 2. So kakerga instead of kaka, accent here erga. So just a kind of simple move. We've seen accents have to shift when somebody was pushing them before. Same thing, only now it's moving back left. So finally, what if this deals with an enclitic, though? It's not just kaka erga, but then we have st over here, right? So here, when we had kaka st, we'd leave this as an acute accent because it was followed by an enclitic, and then no accent was needed on st. Well, now we got to drop the alpha, right? And then would we put the accent here? Well, the answer is yes, but now note that there's a somewhat of a ghost here. There's a missing alpha, kind of spooky alpha. And now we can't accent this because there's the accent here. So st gets an accent on its ultima, following the rule that, well, this is now functionally a second position acute accent on the antepenult. In both cases, this needs to go here. That's weird because in theory, this is now monosyllabic, and that should be able, st should be able to survive. It's not like there's a space there, but it's because Greeks understood that that alpha was there and they wanted to kind of honor its absence, even if they weren't going to deign to speak it, with this accent over here on the enclitic. So that's really weird, and I'll make it estin because it's at the end of the sentence. So here we go, kak estin, kaka erga. So basically 2 and 3 are the same, but 3 we're just dealing with the special case of a enclitic that acts as if there is an accentable syllable here that's just not being accented, which to a certain extent there is. So these were the 3 types of accent that we could deal with. So prepositions, disyllabic, we just lose the accent. In things like kaka, the accent moves to the antepenult, or sorry, to the penult, to position 2. In cases where that precedes a enclitic, the enclitic gets its accent back. And then now we're going to we've been doing 1, 2, 3, let's do letter A, because this is a different thing. Well, let's say that we have apo, and then we have another verb or form. We're going to use Shelmerdine's example, even though we don't know what this relative article would mean yet. Hone, apo plus hone. So if we were to write this out in Roman transliteration, this is what we have, apo plus hone. Now what we say is, well, this is a vowel. Forget this H sound because it was kind of weak. So we got to get rid of this omicron. Well, no accent. This is back to rule number 1 here. That's all great. So we've got the op. But now if we're, the whole reason that we're eliding is because we're speaking quickly. Now we've got op hone. We've got what here, if we were to translate this back into Greek, would need to be this, right? Aphone. Well, that's exactly what happens. So this pi, preceding as it does an aspirate, becomes aspirated itself. So we get af, and then we mark that absence again of the omicron with this apostrophe, and then we kind of over-determine it. We include the rough breathing still here, even though we have that kind of rough sound here, but it's ap, hone. So here's an example with pi. We could do the same sort of thing with ta. So Shelmerdine's example, actually that would be acute. Ta, te, hopla. Maybe both the weapons and the weapons. We can't really translate this te accurately without more context. But note that this te, before the omicron, we're going to lose that epsilon. And then again, we'd want to mark that with a apostrophe, but it precedes an aspiration. Again, if we were to write this out in Roman transliterations as one, or transliteration singular as one word, we'd have tathopola. That would be an aspirate. So that's exactly what we do. Still marking the absence of the epsilon with the apostrophe, and then still including that rough breathing at the beginning of hopla, ta, th, hopla. And to put that break in speaking there, ta, th, hopla, is crazy. There's no reason that if that space was there that we would actually get this aspirate. There would be no elision, there'd be none of this. It really is ta, thopla. But by convention, unlike English don't, where we have no space, here they retain that original space in the Greek writing. Again, this is in the modern editions of Greek writing. If this was on a inscription, that's going to be a very different ball game altogether. But ta thopla is how we pronounce that. And then aphone, not aphone. And then kakistin, kak erga. This is kind of interesting that we get those two acutes right next to each other. And then apautu. Those are the pronunciations. That's all that we need to know about elision. Elision is really easy to detect when you're reading Greek. You're able to kind of say, oh, well, that's probably missing an omicron. You don't really need to think. It's actually very hard to reproduce and know what to do, especially when a, what's this called? An enclitic is involved. So pay attention to this. Don't worry about it, because you're going to find that you'll understand and you'll know. I mean, we haven't come across many apostrophes yet in our study of Greek. So when you see them, you'll know that it's dealing with elision. But when you need to be able to create them in your English to Greek sentences, it's a rule book that you'll need to get a sense of. 1, 2, 3, and then how we deal also with these aspirates. Now, I said we were going to start with exercises on the next lesson last time. Now we actually do get to exercises 38 and 39 on pages 48 and 49 of Shelmerdine. I'll walk you through a few of those next. See you then.